You're seriously not canceling dinner with your ex? That was the first thing out of my mouth. No good morning, no calm tone, just a line that split the air like thunder. She didn't even flinch. I can't. He's Haley's father. Her voice was steady, mine was shaking. The coffee on the table went cold before I could blink. The clock behind her kept ticking, loud, merciless, like it was counting down to the death of something sacred. Our wedding photo hung right above her shoulder, smiling back at me like a cruel joke. That's when I knew love doesn't end with yelling. It ends with silence and truth. I took a breath and said, if you're keeping your dinners with your past, then I'm canceling our future. And that's where it all started. If you've ever watched your marriage collapse in slow motion, subscribe, because this story isn't about losing her. It's about finding me. I didn't shout after that line. The room just sagged, like a porch swing with one chain loose. She came home late, hair still holding the smell of some fancy place, smiling like she'd had a good night. She set her bag down, hummed a tune, and asked if I'd eaten. Leftovers sat in the fridge, untouched. I had dinner with Cole, she said, like it was weather. I kept my voice steady. Cole who? She didn't blink. My ex-fiancé. Haley's dad. The words landed heavy, the way a toolbox hits concrete. Somewhere outside, a neighbor rolled his trash can to the curb. Inside, my stomach dropped to floor. I thought about all the small promises we make in a marriage. Text me if you're running late, save me a seat, come home to me. She poured herself water, like this was normal, like the rules hadn't just been redrawn without my vote. I tried not to make it a fight. Men like me learn to start with questions, not accusations. So I looked at her, then at the clock, then back at her. My voice was even, but it cut. Since when do you have dinners with him? That was the first hairline crack I could hear. She didn't miss a beat. It's for Haley. We need to coordinate. That word floated there like a memo from HR. Sterile, safe, not meant to be argued with. I pictured real coordination. Who's doing pickup? Who's paying for cleats? Who's sitting through a school concert on a Wednesday night? But Haley lives with him full time. Every other weekend, some holidays. That's our reality. I handle my life by lists. Bills, oil changes, dental appointments. Coordinating is numbers on a calendar, not candlelight and long nights out. She tapped her phone and flipped it face down. That small move said more than any speech. I kept it calm. I've sat through enough traffic and long workdays to know most explosions aren't worth it. Okay, I said. So, what exactly are we coordinating when you see her twice a month? The room got quiet. The fridge hummed. A game murmured on a TV down the street. I thought of the men I know, guys who hold the line, who show up, who eat microwave dinners at 9 p.m. and still say grace. There's a difference between parenting and orbiting your past. My hands were steady on the counter. The question hung there, sharper each second. Coordinate what when you see her twice a month? If you've ever told yourself it was just for the kid, stay a little longer. You'll see how that story really ends. My question just hung there and she let it. So I tried again. Calm, the way you talk to a kid who won't look you in the eye. She exhaled through her nose and snapped, "You're jealous. You're controlling." Funny thing about those words. They don't start a conversation. They end one. I shut my mouth. Years teach you that not every fire deserves gasoline. She walked to the bathroom. The door clicked. Water thundered like she'd turned a river on its side. I stood in the quiet, countertop, keys, 2 bills due Friday, listening to that shower beat the tile like a drum roll. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen island. Once. Twice. I didn't touch it. I stared at the black screen and saw my face in it, small and tired. A decent man knows when not to look, and knowing hurts worse. We've all had those nights. Microwave dinner, a rerun humming from the other room, your life feeling like it belongs to someone else. I kept my voice low, steady, almost gentle when she came back, towel in her hair. "I'm not angry," I said. "I'm not even asking you to stop seeing him." I tapped the counter once. In a marriage, I'm asking to know. The clock ticked. She didn't answer. The next evening, the bathroom light carved a clean square across the hall. She leaned toward the mirror, tracing eyeliner with the kind of focus you save for exams and secrets. In the glass, I was a smudged shadow behind her, my shoulders blurred, my jaw set. I kept it simple. "Dinner again tonight?" She didn't blink. "For Haley." That phrase was a key she turned in every lock. I thought of real, for-the-child things, late-night fevers, math homework, folding jerseys on a laundry room counter still warm from the dryer, not candlelight, not 6-hour talks. I reached out and steadied the wedding photo on the dresser. The frame wobbled, then sat straight. You tell yourself objects don't care, but sometimes they seem to hold their breath. She capped the eyeliner, slid on a pair of earrings I'd bought her in Galveston, and finally met my eyes. In the mirror, not in the room. I kept my voice measured, softer than it felt. "Look, I'm not starting a fight. A beat. I just need one honest answer." I tapped the frame with my fingertip, a tiny sound. "In that mirror, who are you getting ready for?" Her hand hesitated on the lipstick. The light hummed. And we both understood the question wasn't small at all. After that mirror moment, I stopped arguing and started paying attention. The next morning, her purse slid open on the counter while she reached for keys. A thin slip of paper peeked out like a secret that wanted air. Giovanni's. My chest didn't explode. It stalled. One heavy beat, then another, like an engine that doesn't trust the road. I didn't make a scene. I've learned good men don't swing first. They take notes. I read the timestamp, the server's name, the line for 2 entrees, and a bottle that wasn't cheap. I folded the receipt back exactly where I found it and set my face to neutral. The house sounded normal. Dishwasher humming, a mower 2 yards over, the dog next door tapping the fence. But the room had changed temperature. Giovanni's isn't just a restaurant in our town. It's where candles matter and rings find fingers. I put the date in my phone, quiet and plain, like a grocery reminder. Then I rinsed my mug and told her to drive safe. No sermon, no raised voice. Just a man who now understood the terrain. I didn't say the thought out loud, but it rang anyway. Giovanni's, the place men get on one knee. If you've ever found proof you weren't ready to see, don't scroll. This part's for you. You don't need a detective when a lie does the heavy lifting. That Friday, she kissed my cheek and said, "Staying at Sadie's, girls' night." I smiled like a man who still believes in weekends and drove to the coffee shop early the next morning. 2 lattes, one with her syrupy order, one black for me. Sadie's complex was quiet, sprinklers ticking, a flag snapping on a neighbor's porch. I knocked, balanced the cups, and practiced being gracious. The door opened. Sadie blinked at the tray, then at me. "Hey, what's up?" I said. "Thought you two could use caffeine." Confusion slid across her face. "Two? Michael, I haven't seen Rebecca in weeks." The word weeks hollowed the hallway. My grip tightened. The cardboard tray trembled. Somewhere a car alarm chirped and went back to sleep. I cleared my throat and nodded like a gentleman who just got handed the truth without a bow. "Got it. Sorry to bother you." I walked back to the truck slow, each step counting something I couldn't name. The lattes rode shotgun, cooling in silence. When I got home, she was already there, humming in the kitchen like Sunday church. I set the keys down and asked evenly, "Where were you last night?" Driving back from Sadie's, I told myself to breathe, to wait, to give her one more chance to be straight. I set my keys on the counter, and that's when her phone buzzed on the stovetop. Once, short and bright. The name on the screen was clear as daylight. Cole. I didn't go digging. The message was right there, like it wanted to be seen. "Thanks for last night. Haley loved breakfast with both of us." It felt like touching an electric fence. No blood, just every nerve shutting down at once. The fridge hummed. A lawnmower droned somewhere down the block. I stood still, phone in my hand, the tile suddenly colder under my feet. Footsteps on the stairs, light and unhurried. She rounded the corner, towel in her hair, already smiling like Sunday wasn't heavy. The smile faded when she saw the screen. My voice was low, not angry, not loud, just done being naive. "Breakfast," I said, careful with each word. "All 3 of us?" It didn't need shouting, it didn't need a speech. That one line did what yelling never could. It laid the truth in the middle of the kitchen and made it impossible to walk around. The timer went off on the oven, nothing inside. I set her phone down like it might break. The room was a different place now. She moved fast to the words she knew. It's not what you think. Then came the script. Guest room. We watched a movie with Haley. She wanted pancakes. Each line felt preloaded, like she'd practiced it in the car. I didn't chase her into corners. I kept my elbows on the counter and stared at the fruit bowl we never finish. You stayed the night, I said, and you didn't tell me. She rolled her eyes, a move I've seen kill 1,000 conversations. You're overreacting. Men my age know that phrase. It's a wet blanket thrown over a house fire. I thought about all the times I'd swallowed suspicion to keep the peace. Late emails, extra meetings, just friends messages that never needed to be secret. The shower upstairs dripped once like the house was listening. I stayed even, voice steady, not a hair louder than before. You told me you were at Sadie's. I let the sentence sit, then added the weight. I was there this morning. A long beat opened between us, the kind that separates what used to be from what is. I didn't raise my tone. I didn't throw names. I just asked the one question that matters when a story stops making sense. You lied about Sadie. What else is true? After that kitchen standoff, I tried to bury myself in work, the kind of day where coffee tastes like cardboard and the cursor blinks like a dare. Around lunch, my phone lit up with a local number. I answered out of habit. A warm voice said, "Hi, just calling to thank both parents for attending Haley's orientation this morning. It was great to see you." I didn't say anything at first. I just watched the screen like it might go back in time and change the words. "Sir?" she added, polite, unaware. "Yes," I said, steady enough to pass for calm. "Thank you." I hung up and leaned back in my chair. The office noise faded, the printer, the chatter, even the air vent, until it was just me and a buzzing that lived somewhere under my ribs. I stared at the family photo on my desk and thought about bleachers, bake sales, and the way dads like me show up even when nobody claps. The truth didn't come with fireworks. It settled like dust and felt twice as heavy. I put the phone down and looked out at the gray Texas sky. Men my age don't need a speech to understand a lineup. The sentence formed itself, clean and sharp. There are family moments I'm not invited to. And I knew exactly where I stood. I drove home on autopilot, the kind of ride where every red light feels personal. Inside, the house wore its usual face. Dishes drying, shoes by the door, a TV humming 2 rooms away. On the dining table sat a sheet of printer paper with a child's universe on it. Crayon sun, blue house. 3 stick figures holding hands under a crooked tree. Above them, careful letters, Mom plus Dad plus me. I didn't have to count to know which dad made the list. My name wasn't missing. I was. I picked the drawing up, studied the shaky lines, the extra effort in the heart over the eye. You tell yourself kids are resilient, and they are, but they're also honest in ways we forget how to be. I felt something loosen and then lock into place. I set the paper down and straightened the edge so it matched the table seam. One small mercy for a world that wasn't mine to arrange. I smiled, not because anything was funny, but because men like me run out of other options before we run out of respect. The thought slipped out, quiet but final. In her picture, I'm the extra. And sometimes that's all the evidence you need. That drawing sat on the table a while, like a verdict no one wanted to read out loud. I waited for the right moment, not to win, just to hold up a mirror. When she came in, I kept my voice even. "Answer me straight," I said. "If I had dinners every 2 weeks with my ex-fiancée, if I stayed late, maybe stayed over for the kid, would you call that a marriage?" Her eyes slid past mine to the window, then to anything else that wasn't the truth. No reply. The curtain moved with a small draft, the kind you only notice when a house goes quiet on you. I didn't push. Men my age learn that silence has a way of sorting the real from the scripted. The room felt darker than the clock said it should be. I thought of ball games missed for overtime, of anniversaries I tried to make special, of the hundreds of ordinary nights that build a life. I wasn't asking for a confession. I was asking for a standard that cut both ways. 1 beat, 2. Her jaw set. The distance grew without either of us taking a step. I let the question land where it needed to. Is that still called a marriage? Ever wondered what you'd do if the mirror turned on you? Keep watching. This is where clarity begins. Her non-answer told me more than an argument ever could. So I stopped chasing explanations and started writing down facts. No shouting, no slammed doors, just dates and times in a plain note on my phone. Dinner, Thursday, back at 11:52. Dinner, Tuesday, past midnight. The pattern built itself like tire tracks in wet dirt. Her texts got shorter. Her returns got later. I kept the house steady, trash out, bills paid, dog fed, because a man can be reliable even when his world isn't. I cooked simple food, ate standing at the counter, and listened to the hum of a fridge I'd fixed twice. When she walked in, I didn't play detective. I asked if she wanted a plate. Sometimes she did. Most nights she didn't. I breathed slow, the way you do when the doctor says, "We'll wait and see." And somewhere along that stretch, the jealousy drained out like rain through a gutter. What settled in its place wasn't rage. It was a hard, clean quiet that didn't need proof anymore. I set my phone down and looked at the doorway she always rushed through. My voice, when it came, surprised me with how calm it was. The jealousy is gone. What's left is clarity. Clarity changes how you hold things. That night, I didn't hold anger. I held paper. I set the Giovanni's receipt in the center of the table like a quiet photograph. She glanced at it, then at me. "It's just convenient," she said, reaching for a glass. I nodded, once. Convenient. I let the word travel, slow as a truck up a hill. The same place he once proposed? Her hand stopped midair. If you've ever watched a lie run out of road, you know that stillness. I didn't raise my voice. I raised the standard. We both know Giovanni's isn't drive-through. I slid the slip closer with a fingertip. The timestamp caught the light. Timestamp. Funny thing about coincidences, I said, eyes steady. They don't usually sit in a wallet for 3 days. The kitchen had the kind of quiet that makes you hear your own heartbeat. She looked for an exit, calendar, sink, anything, but there wasn't one that didn't step on truth. I wasn't asking her to admit romance. I was asking her to admit reality. The line came out measured, exactly as heavy as it needed to be. Accidents don't live in a purse for 3 days, Rebecca, do they? That was the payoff the moment deserved. No yell, no bang, just a door closing on excuses. Silence didn't fix much, but it cleared the path. The next morning, I tried something simpler than any argument. I poured coffee, set 2 mugs down, and said, "If this is for Haley, I'll come with you tonight." No accusation, no trap, just a father-shaped offer to stand where fathers stand. She didn't blink. No. The kind of no that doesn't look up. No explanation about seating, schedules, timing. No eye contact to dress it up. Men my age know when the game is already on the scoreboard. I didn't chase it. I didn't ask for a rain check. I let the word do what it does when it's honest. Reveal. I took a breath and felt something inside me click into place. Clean, final, almost relieving. "Okay," I said, calm as a green light. "Then it isn't for the child." Her jaw tightened. Mine didn't have to. Because boundaries aren't ultimatums. They're measurements. They tell you where you stand and where you stop pretending. I rinsed my cup and set it in the rack, the way a man ends a task he knows he's finished. No lecture, no storm, just a line drawn with 1 offered chair and 1 refused seat. The result didn't need debate. "If I can't be there for family, it isn't family," I said, soft, certain, and finally, sure of myself. After that clean, final no, I stopped measuring hope and started measuring time. I set a reminder on my phone, move 72H, and felt the room change temperature. The suitcase clicked open on the bed like a stage light finding its mark. New cardboard boxes waited in a stack, the kind you buy when you know this isn't a drill. I folded shirts flat, lined up belts, slid photos into sleeves. The tape gun rasped across the seams. Rip! A sound that cuts cleaner than any argument. I labeled each box in block letters, the way a man labels what he's keeping of himself. The house made its ordinary noises: fridge hum, AC sigh, a distant leaf blower. My heartbeat matched them, steady, unhurried, finally honest. I wasn't rushing. I was refusing to stall. There's a freedom in choosing a direction, even if it hurts. I checked the timer, 71:42, then set another. Utilities call, 2 p.m. A life can shrink to simple tasks when the big thing is decided. No grand speeches, no accusation rehearsals. Just a clean list and the quiet satisfaction of a plan that won't lie to you. I zipped the suitcase halfway and stood in the doorway, looking at what we built and what I'd carry. Counting down. So I stopped counting our sins. You can hear a marriage split if you listen in the right places. That night, her laughter came first. Warm, relaxed, the kind reserved for soft lighting and second glasses. I pictured the curve of her wrist around a stem, the way she leans in when she's comfortable. Then I climbed a chair and found the nail behind our wedding photo. The tiny ping of metal against metal felt louder than it should. Another laugh somewhere across town. Another careful tug from me. I eased the frame down and dust fell in a soft gray halo. 3 years hiding behind glass. Her glass touched his with a polite clink I could hear without being there. I set the photo on a towel, not because I was sentimental, but because I still am who I am. A bottle breathed in a restaurant. My tape breathed across a box. 2 soundtracks, same night, different stories. I wrapped the frame in brown paper, folded the corners like a flag, and slid it into the keep stack. Not to save us, just to save me. I didn't look for the ring in the picture. I knew where it was. I checked the phone. 68 hours. Somewhere, a waiter said, "Another round?" I pressed the paper flat and let the truth stand up straight. She raised her glass. I lowered my resolve. After the cross-cut night, I needed one clean move that didn't depend on anyone's honesty. I drove to the bank the way you drive to a hardware store when something in the house won't hold. No drama, just purpose. The lobby smelled like paper and quiet. A teller with kind eyes asked, "Reason for the new account?" I didn't flinch. "To stop paying for a dinner I'm not invited to." Her expression didn't change, and I appreciated that. We got to work. Signatures, initials, a rubber stamp that sounded like finality. I moved my half from the joint, nothing sneaky, nothing spiteful. Just the part I earned, the part I'll need for first month's rent and a bed that won't remember us. I kept my jaw loose, shoulders square, the way you do when you're getting a shot you know is good for you. Men my age don't always get to choose what breaks. We do get to choose what we brace. I checked the balance, memorized the routing number, slid the new card into my wallet. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like oxygen. I thanked the teller, met my own stare in the dark gloss of the glass door, and stepped back into the Texas heat. I'm not punishing her. I'm protecting the part of me that has to survive. You can only tighten bolts for so long before you change the beam. Back in the truck, I called Robert. No small talk, just a man deciding. "Is the Portland spot still open?" Papers rustled. "It is. 10 days. It's a bump up, but it's fast. Fast is fine when slow has been killing you." "I'll take it," I said, and meant it with my whole chest. We went through the details. Start date, relocation stipend, who I'd report to. Clean, simple, adult. When I hung up, Austin wore a blue-gray sky that looked like it needed rain and didn't care if it got it. I rolled the window down and let the warm air flood the cab. The same streets, the same lights, the same barbecue smoke drifting from a corner lot, and yet everything was different, because I was different. I wasn't sprinting from a fire. I was walking toward a door I should have opened months ago. I pictured a small apartment with a quiet fridge, a desk by a window, and mornings that didn't start with guessing. I don't hate this place. I'm just done bleeding in it. I checked the 72-hour timer, now 64, and smiled at the number for the first time. The exit isn't running, it's release. The hours kept sliding off the clock, and the house began to change its shape. I started with the quiet things. Books left the shelves first, spines I knew by heart stacked in neat rows inside a box labeled Keep. The leather chair where I read on Sundays vanished next, leaving a pale rectangle in the carpet like a tan line. I took the coffee machine apart the way I fix most problems. Methodical, one screw at a time, no drama, everything wrapped so it won't rattle. My diplomas came down with a soft thud, glass against cardboard, years of effort reduced to 2 clean labels and a Sharpie date. No one noticed. The AC sighed. A dog barked down the street. A delivery truck grumbled past. I kept moving, the way a man moves when the plan is already written. The walls looked taller without familiar things leaning on them. I folded a throw blanket and slid it into a bin, then wiped a faint ring off the end table because old habits don't dissolve just because love does. The place still smelled like lemon cleaner and late dinners. It still echoed the same. But standing in that quiet, with tape stuck to my wrist and dust on my palms, the line arrived clear and cold. The house was still here. The marriage had already left. And maybe what scared me most was how peaceful that felt. By the time she came home, it was late enough for the air to feel thin. She was glowing. Restaurant lighting and good company will do that, dropping her keys in the bowl like any other night. Then her smile faltered. "Where's the bookshelf?" I dried my hands on a dish towel and kept my voice level. Clearing space. She opened a cabinet for a glass and stopped halfway. Half the dishes were gone, pared down to what 2 strangers might keep out of politeness. The room shifted a few degrees. These are the moments when people finally look, not at you, but at the outline you've been leaving behind. She tried a laugh that didn't quite fit, then checked the living room. No chair, no framed degrees, a corner of the wall slightly brighter where a picture used to be. She wasn't angry, she was confused, which is its own kind of alarm. I didn't fill the silence. I let her eyes take inventory while the fridge hummed and the hall clock counted. You can't explain subtraction to someone who only believes in addition. You can only show them what's missing. She turned back to me, questions crowding her face. I met her gaze and let the truth sit between us. Finally, you see it. When the person who hurt you finally notices the damage, that's when the story shifts. Don't miss it. Sometimes silence isn't mercy. It's evidence. From the moment she finally saw it, the house felt like a stage after the curtain call. I set the table with 1 fork, 1 knife, 1 plate. No drama, just a fact. The chair across from me stayed empty, pushed in tight like nobody lived there. The overhead bulb threw that tired yellow you get in late-night kitchens. It made the steam off my food look ghostly. You could hear everything. The soft scrape of my fork, the clock dragging its feet, my own breath counting beats. A key turned in the front door. Click, clack, and the hallway filled with her perfume and cold air. She hovered in the doorway, taking in the single setting, the quiet. I didn't look up right away. I swallowed, set the fork down, lined the knife parallel to the plate, the way I do when I'm finished. Then I met her eyes, voice low and even, the kind of even that means it's already decided. You don't need to cancel your dinners anymore. No heat, no sarcasm, just a line drawn in the middle of an ordinary night. She blinked, searching for the old script, the old excuses. The room wouldn't give them back. The emptiness did the talking for me. The bare patches on the wall, the missing chair, the quiet plate across from mine. There are speeches and then there are facts. Tonight I served a fact, and somewhere between the fork and the truth, I realized I'd already eaten my last dinner here. Her mouth found the first question it could hold. Why? Not angry, not pleading, just small, like a child waking from a bad dream. I let the quiet breathe long enough to matter. No music, no TV, just the old house heartbeat, ducts settling, the clock, my pulse steadying. Because, I said, each word clean, I won't be here to care. Color left her face the way daylight leaves a room, inch by inch. She took half a step forward, then stopped, as if the floor between us had become a map she didn't recognize. I pushed the chair back, the legs whispering across tile, and stood. This wasn't a scene. It was a sentence finally spoken. I thought of every late pickup, every overtime shift I took to keep the lights on, every time I chose us first. A man gets to choose himself too. I didn't raise my voice because truth doesn't need volume. I looked at the doorway, then at the suitcase by it, already half-zipped, already honest. I'm moving to Portland. The words landed the way anchors do, down, final, no drift left. She reached for something, my sleeve, a reason, yesterday, but there wasn't anything to grab that wouldn't cut. I picked up my keys. The metal felt cold and right. Some endings bang. Mine clicked. But sometimes the softest sound is the one that breaks the loudest things. After "I'm moving to Portland," there was a long, stunned quiet, like the air itself didn't want to carry the words. Then she blinked hard, found her voice, and said, "You're joking." I shook my head. Monday. The syllables landed heavy, simple as a date on a calendar. She grabbed the chair back like she needed something solid. "That's too fast." I glanced at the half-zipped suitcase, the boxes already numbered in black marker. "It's fast," I said, "because slow has lasted too long." We stood there measuring different clocks, hers stuck on someday, mine finally ticking again. She looked around the room, seeing spaces where we used to live. "You can't just decide this overnight." I almost smiled. Nothing about this was overnight. It was every night I ate late and called it fine, every for-the-child dinner that wasn't for the child, every minute I spent waiting for the first honest answer. The hallway clock clicked, one beat and then another, like an old house keeping score. Outside, a car door thumped, a neighbor's porch light clicked on, and the world kept moving the way it always does when your life stalls. I checked my phone. The countdown had dropped from 72 to 48 hours. The plan didn't need her permission. It needed my courage, and that finally I had. Still, courage feels strange the first night you stop explaining yourself. She steadied, then swung for the old script. "You're controlling." The word hung there like a wet towel over a flame. I didn't raise my voice. I raised the mirror. "Listen to the pattern," I said, counting on my fingers, slow and plain. "First, you deny. It's not what you think. Then you attack. You're jealous. You're overreacting. Then you reverse it, and I'm suddenly the problem." I let the silence hold a beat, then gave it a name. "It's called Darvo. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender." She opened her mouth, closed it, glanced toward the hallway like there might be an exit sign. There wasn't. The wind pressed the porch swing, a soft creak across wood, the kind of sound small towns are built on. "I'm not controlling," I said, steady as a plumb line. "I'm drawing a boundary. That's what grown men do when words stop meaning what they're supposed to mean." She folded her arms, then unfolded them, the way people do when their hands don't know where to live. I thought of ball fields, busted faucets, and the 1,000 ordinary ways men fix what's theirs to fix. This one I couldn't patch. I could only label it true and step back. "There's no room left to hide in the blame," I finished. "We're fresh out of shadows." The clock ticked once, and the house agreed. Truth doesn't echo until the liar leaves the room. Naming the pattern didn't end it. It just changed her play. She took a breath and reached for something shiny. "Let's do counseling," she said, like a coupon you pull at the register. I pictured a fresh coat of paint over a cracked wall. Looks good on Instagram, still crumbles in a storm. "Is that to fix us?" I asked. "Or to post a photo and tell everyone we're working on it?" She didn't answer. I've been a husband long enough to know the difference between repair and PR. Therapy can be holy when honesty is the floor you stand on. But when the floor is lies, all a session does is teach you better words for the same behavior. I shook my head. No anger, no speech, just the truth I could afford. "I won't sit in a room and pretend the math adds up," I said. "I won't audition for forgiveness while you hold on to your story." She folded her arms, then let them fall. Silence finally told the truth her mouth wouldn't. I leaned on the counter and kept my tone low enough for both of us to hear it. Counseling doesn't fix lies. If we had a chance, it would start with daylight, not dimmer switches. She looked at the floor. I looked at the clock. The hands moved. The house exhaled. After the counseling pitch died in the room, I realized I needed to draw one line she couldn't redraw. I opened my profile and changed a single word. Married, single. No parade, no victory lap, just a status that matched the life I was already living. The phone shook itself awake with replies. Old friends, cousins, guys from the job site. Proud of you. Think about Haley. Maybe you're being too hard. All of it landed somewhere between my ribs and my backbone. I set the phone face down and stepped onto the porch. Texas sky, that heavy gray before a storm. You can smell rain in this state the way you can smell trouble. You learn to read the wind. I took a breath that went all the way down. I wasn't building a team or a narrative. I was building a boundary I could sleep behind. The messages kept stacking in the other room, small fireworks I didn't need to watch. A neighbor waved. I nodded back. Somewhere, a kid bounced a basketball on cracked pavement. Ordinary life, faithful as ever. I went inside, picked up the phone, and typed what I meant for anyone who needed it spelled out. I'm not looking for sides. I'm looking for self-respect. Then I put the phone away and let the quiet keep me honest. Going public settled one part of me. The rest needed rules I could touch. I pulled a plain index card from the junk drawer and wrote 3 lines small and steady, the way you write something you plan to keep. No calls for 30 days. Email only for finances. Do not mention the past in front of the child. I set the card on the kitchen island. No drama, just policy. She froze when she saw it, like a deer catching a porch light. "What is this?" she asked, but the answer was already in the handwriting. I didn't lecture. I didn't list grievances or tally nights. I simply slid the card closer. "This is how we stop hurting each other," I said. She searched my face for anger and found none. Just tired honesty and a plan that doesn't need applause. I folded the card once, then again, so it fit a wallet and could survive a washing machine. The window eased shut on its track with a soft thunk, and the room felt contained finally. You learn, at a certain age, that love without boundaries is just weather. You wait it out and hope it doesn't take your roof. I met her eyes and kept my voice low, even, adult. "Boundaries aren't punishment," I said. "They're protection, for both of us." The card stayed between us like a small, necessary peace. Rules written, it was time for motion. I carried the last box, winter coats, a framed photo of my dad, the toolbox he left me, out to the driveway. The evening air had that dry Texas bite. It made the corrugation scrape a little louder. Inside the trunk, the other boxes had settled into their places like bricks in a short wall. I set the final one down and felt the whole load balance. Across the street, a neighbor's dog gave 2 uncertain barks and then quieted. I looked up at the roofline, the place where I'd replaced shingles one summer and promised myself I'd never let this house leak. Houses are easy to keep dry. Hearts aren't. The porch light threw a thin cone across the driveway, catching the dust in the air, and for a second I saw the life we built the way you see breath in cold weather, there, and then gone. I didn't turn for a last tour. Goodbyes lose their meaning when you've been saying them in small doses for months. I set my palm against the trunk and pushed. The latch met the metal with a full, final thud, a sound like punctuation, a sound like crossing a state line. I took one slow breath and set it to the dark, not for her. Goodbye, old Silas. Then I walked to the driver's side without looking back. The trunk thudded shut behind me, but the house still needed its last sentence. I stepped back inside for my jacket, hand finding the familiar groove on the knob. I turned the lock slowly, feeling the weight of the bolt slide home. Somewhere in the living room a playlist was still whispering, some old country song we used to hum along to, so I reached over and killed it. 5 seconds of absolute nothing followed, the kind of quiet that presses on your eardrums and makes you hear your own breath. In that pocket of silence, I could feel every mile I was about to drive. She stood in the hallway, waiting for the old me to soften, to stall. I kept my eyes on the door. The lock gave a clean click, final, polite, no argument left. I took one breath that went all the way down, shouldered the jacket, and let my steps find the tile, the threshold, the porch. No slam, no speech. Just the truth delivered at a volume that couldn't be mistaken. I looked back once, not at her, but at the life staged in that room, the empty hooks, the pale squares on the wall, and said the last thing that needed saying, "Because I won't be here to care." Then the footsteps belonged to the driveway, and I let the night take me. The elevator smelled like new wood and varnish, that soft, hopeful scent buildings have before anyone breaks them in. My suitcase wheels whispered over the hall carpet, past a door with my number on it and no history attached. I opened to a square of winter light, floor-to-ceiling glass looking out at the Willamette, gray and honest as steel. Cold air rolled in when I cracked the window, the kind that wakes your face and resets your lungs. I set the keys on the counter. They made a small, bright sound that didn't echo off anyone else's opinion. No photos on the walls, no dishes arguing in the sink. Just a room and a man, both new enough to be careful. I stood there taking inventory. Stove that works, lock that answers, a chair that hasn't learned my weight yet. I wasn't celebrating. I was arriving. I thought about all the places I've called home. Barracks, neat apartments, rentals with squeaky floors, that house in Austin, and how none of them mattered without the one thing that keeps a roof from being just wood and nails. I closed the window, let the quiet settle around the edges, and said it out loud so the room could learn my rules. Home is where people tell the truth. Then I unpacked one box and let the heat come on. If you've ever tried to start over from zero, you'll understand what comes next. The first morning in Portland felt like switching from AM radio to clear FM. I showed up 10 minutes early because that's what men like me do when we're rebuilding. The front desk badge worked on the first tap, a good omen. 2 coworkers nodded hello the way guys do. Short, real, no performance. My desk faced a window, not a wall. The monitor blinked awake, code spilling out like neat rows in a wheat field, and I let my hands remember what they're good at, solving problems that have answers. Coffee was hot, black, and honest. My shoulders dropped an inch. Breathing synced with the hum of the room, keyboards, distant laughter, the quiet confidence of people doing what they said they'd do. A manager stopped by, asked for an estimate. I gave one I could back up. No theater, no translation, just work. It's funny how fast a man improves when doubt isn't the background noise. I wrote a function, refactored a messy block, left comments for the next guy because I still believe in leaving things better than I found them. Every line that compiled felt like a small apology from the universe. By lunch, my name was on the team board, my code merged, my pulse steady. The thought landed simple and right. When I'm not forced to doubt, I do better. By afternoon, the quiet had a rhythm I could trust, until my phone started buzzing like a trapped insect. Rebecca. Once, twice, 3 times in a row. I let them pass, hands still on the keyboard, because not every emergency is yours to answer. The 4th call I took. Her voice came tight, almost metallic. "Where are you?" I watched a cloud drag its shadow across the Willamette and felt the kind of calm you get after finishing a job that mattered. I didn't argue. I didn't narrate. I opened the camera, framed the skyline and the steel-gray river, snapped a photo. Then I set my keys beside the laptop and took another shot. 2 keys on a clean counter with nothing to hide behind. I sent both, no caption, and waded through the dots. "What is this?" she asked, softer now. I kept my tone even, the way you talk when the truth has already arrived. "I'm home." That wasn't a jab, it was a map coordinate. She said my name, then silence, the long kind, the kind that marks where a road used to be. The phone vibrated in my hand with whatever came next, but it didn't change the picture. I was here, working, breathing, choosing. Visual proof does what arguments can't. The photos sent, the silence held, and then her voice came back smaller than I remembered. I ended it with him. No preface, no apology, just the sentence, clean and late. I let a breath out slow. "When?" A beat. "This afternoon." I looked at the river, gray and steady, and felt something loosen, not relief exactly, more like a knot finally naming itself. In the background I could hear traffic from our old street in Austin, or maybe I just imagined it, the sound of lives that kept going while ours stalled. She waited for me to celebrate a decision that cost me months. I didn't. Men my age know the difference between stopping because it's wrong and stopping because it's expensive. My chair creaked as I leaned forward, elbows on the desk, voice even. "You want to know what I hear?" I asked. She didn't answer. I pictured all the small mercies I'd given, late-night pickups, a spare key on a hook, the benefit of the doubt stretched thin. You didn't cut it because it was wrong, I said, not unkind, just true. You cut it because it finally cost you something. The words sat there, heavy but fair. She went quiet the way a room does when a storm moves past. I didn't push, didn't soften. The consequence had finally arrived, and it wore my absence like a name tag. You ended it, when there was a price. Her quiet didn't offend me, it informed me. So I laid the truth out like tools on a bench, one at a time, no rust, no tricks. If I hadn't found out, I asked, would you have stopped? Nothing. Not even a breath. I let that silence count as what it was. Then the next. If I hadn't left, would you have told me the truth? The same hush, the same weight on the line. I watched a barge slide under the bridge and thought about all the men I know who haul more than they say. I gave her the only question left, the one that doesn't flinch. If there hadn't been a cost, no exposure, no empty house, no keys on a new counter, would you have chosen me? The third silence landed different. It didn't dodge, it confessed. I didn't gloat. There's no victory in confirming what your gut already knew. I just sat there with the phone warm in my hand and let the arithmetic finish itself. 3 questions, 3 pauses, 3 verdicts. Some truths don't need a witness, they need room. I stood, looked out over the river that keeps moving whether you like it or not, and gave the moment a sentence that even an old house back in Texas could understand. 3 silences equal 3 answers, and that was enough for me to keep walking forward. Those 3 silences did more work than any fight we ever had. 3 weeks passed, new routes to the office, a coffee shop that remembers my order, a routine that didn't hurt to keep. Then security pinged my desk. Rebecca's here to see you. The words felt strange in this building that only knows me clean. I told them to send her up. She stepped out of the elevator with dark circles and rushed hair, wearing yesterday's shirt in today's light. There's a look people get when the story in their head finally loses to the facts in their hands. She sat across from me, palms flat on her knees, and said, I was wrong. I nodded. Men my age don't gloat. We inventory. Her eyes were wet without the drama, more flood than storm. I thought about all the late nights we spent missing each other from 10 feet away. Wrong is fixable, I said, voice even. Late isn't. It wasn't cruelty, it was timekeeping. There's a window where apologies change direction. After that, they don't fix, they prove. She looked at my plain desk, the neat stack of files, the photo of a river instead of a wedding, and understood. We weren't in the chapter where promises live. We were in the one where consequences do. The line that closed the distance without closing the gap. Wrong doesn't beat late. We sat there while the office hummed around us, printers, footsteps, normal life refusing to clap. She took a breath that shivered and said, Cole doesn't want a commitment. He liked the dinners. He doesn't want the responsibility. The sentence landed with a dull, merciful thud. I turned my chair a few degrees toward the window and watched a patch of sun crawl across the Willamette like it had someplace honest to be. She cried, the quiet kind, no show, just gravity. I wasn't angry. Anger is for the beginning. Clarity is for the end. I remembered the Italian receipt, the guest room alibi, the pancakes that turned into a parade, and realized nostalgia had been doing the driving while no one checked the map. I'm not better than her. I'm just done being worse to myself. Here's the thing, I said. Not sharp, just true. The past is a nice place to visit. It's not a place to live. She nodded, the way people nod when the sentence arrives they can't out-talk. I thought of all the American men I know who keep roofs from leaking and kids in cleats, who learn the hard way that longing isn't a plan. My heartbeat didn't race. It settled. Portland held its gray and gave me back my center. The past is for visits, I repeated, calm as a closed door. Not for moving back in. Her shoulders dropped like a woman finally out of script. I'll do counseling. I'll sign a prenup. I'll do whatever. She listed options like coupons at a register, hoping one would make the total smaller. I didn't raise my voice, I raised my standard. I don't need to beat you, I said, steady as a plumb line. I just need to stop losing to myself. That's the thing about being a grown man. You learn the difference between fixing a problem and feeding it. I walked to the door and put my hand on the handle, not to dramatize anything, just to give truth a hinge. She stepped closer on habit alone. I didn't step forward. No shouting, no grand finale, just a boundary that finally had a backbone. We can tell a good story in a therapist's office, I said, but a lie told softly still breaks a home. The hallway carried a draft. Papers on my desk fluttered once and settled. I opened the door and left the space for an answer she didn't have. No hugs, no promises we both knew would collapse at the first familiar excuse. This isn't revenge, I added, gentler than she expected. It's relief. And then I gave her the line that closes one book and refuses to start the wrong sequel. Forgiveness isn't the same as going back. The door clicked behind her, and the room returned to its ordinary music. Printers, footsteps, a chair rolling somewhere down the hall. My phone buzzed on the desk. Norma, coffee after work? The timing felt like a courtesy from the universe, not a promise, just a small offer of normal. I exhaled and caught my reflection in the window, eyes clearer than last month, posture that didn't apologize for taking up space. Outside, Portland did what Portland does. A soft drizzle stitched the river to the city. Traffic hissed like it had someplace decent to be. I shrugged into my jacket, the one that still smells faintly of cedar from the closet in Austin, and typed back, "Sounds good. No subtext, no performance." The elevator doors opened with that stainless steel sigh, and I stepped in lighter than I had any right to be. It turns out freedom doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it invites you to coffee at 5:15. I wasn't planning our future. I was honoring my present. One decent conversation, one hot cup, one dry joke that lands. The car eased down floor by floor, and I realized how rare it is to feel steady after a storm. The thought arrived without fanfare, clean and true. An ordinary day is a kind of miracle. I picture the mic again, the one I've been talking into without wires or applause, and I let the room get quiet enough to hear the truth land. I started this story at a kitchen table with a cold cup. I'm ending it standing on my own 2 feet. Here's what I know now. Love doesn't die from betrayal alone. It dies when people stop choosing each other, day after ordinary day. Boundaries don't kill a marriage, lies do. I used to think staying proved strength. Turns out, strength is leaving when staying means disappearing from yourself. I walked out of that house to keep the one person I'm responsible for, not because I hate her, but because I won't lose me. I can still hear the clock from that night, but it doesn't count down anymore. It simply keeps time, and I finally do too. If you're listening with a knot in your throat because this sounds like your life, take a breath and ask the question I avoided until the end. Will you stay, or will you leave, quietly and honestly, before there's nothing left of you to bring along? I opened with a line I meant. I'll close with it now, sharper and true as a closing door. You can keep your dinners. I'll keep my dignity. And for the first time in a long time, that feels like a beginning.